decades, where they don't really help people. They really don't do much besides collect money and hook up their own people with the money that they raise. And a lot of it's because they have foundations that were given a long time ago to fulfill a purpose, and that purpose may or may not exist anymore. So they just pay each other, and they need to make it look like they're useful. So usually they do that by, like taking down supposed bad guys. And our government has probably become like that also, where there's not even a legitimate attempt, even from Trump's perspective, like certainly like the Biden administration, from my perspective, probably even Trump, there wasn't even a legitimate attempt to govern. It was just to use the government to kind of empty the coffers and pay off their people and to go after the enemies. So now, the Democratic Party, they don't really have a legitimate, they can't really govern. They're not competent to do it. So they're just going to try to hook each other up with the money, bankrupt the country, and use the power to ruin people's lives of who try to call them out. And unfortunately, probably both me and you have seen Jewish organizations have been doing that for years. Like, I even joke a lot of times, these people, they're paid to spy on you and say bad things about you because they do nothing, and they get paid to do nothing. And the way that they keep their job is by trying to ruin people who actually do something. And unfortunately, that's like the level of government and organizations in America, where even CPAC is probably like that.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a brief clip from Rick Wiles. He's apparently running for president. It's from Right Wing Watch, posting this clip to expose the agenda of the extreme right.
If somebody in America put together a political movement to do two main things: break up the power of the tech companies. I mean, bust them up. Don't just slap their fingers. Bust them up. Break them up.
Like in the monopolies of the early 1900s.
Yes, I mean, crush the tech companies. Break them up. And to outlaw being billionaires. We've reached a point. I mean, I'm a free enterprise person, and I have no ill will towards anybody in their financial success. Hey, you want to be a zillionaire, a quadrillionaire? I don't care, right? You want to go buy a planet? Go buy a planet. I don't care. But when you use your money and power to change my life, to take away my rights, to try to force things on me that I object to, that I find morally repulsive, when you try to restrict my free speech, when you try to promote population control, you want to pump vaccines into my body, when you want to change society, you know what? You're my enemy. You're my enemy. And the only way you're able to do it is because you're a billionaire. So then we need to take away your billions. Bill Gates, if he was working a job, 7 to 5, if he was going to work like everybody else, Bill Gates wouldn't be doing this stuff, would he?
No.
He's only doing this stuff because he's a billionaire. Take his billions away. Take it away. We need to do it in this country. There needs to be a populist movement in this country. Let's break up the tech companies. Let's take the billions. I want to take Bill Gates' billions and give it to the poor. I want to give it to the poor. I want to strip them, completely strip them and give it to the poor. I want Jack Dorsey's money. I want Zuckerberg's money. I want to give it to the poor. I don't want to give it to the government. Oh my gosh, tax them and the government get it? No, give it to the poor. Let's take their money and give it to the poor. Let's bust up their corporations. This country would change overnight. I might run in 2024. I might run on that platform. Take the money from the rich, give it to the poor. That might be my platform in 2024.
It's a giving hood.
Yes. I'm going to bust up the tech companies. I'm going to take the money from the billionaires and give it to the poor. I might run in 2024 with that platform.
David, do you have any thoughts on Pastor Rick Wiles?
I don't know much about him. Like, I don't, I know, like, I think Adam Green's spoken to him, and even Vince. I know he made that check to Satmar. I would probably be able to have a friendly conversation with him. I probably disagree with him about the Bible and various things, but as of now, like, no real comment. Like, I know he's pretty big. He has a huge viewership, and even I think he might have heard of me. I'm not sure if I know someone who was on his show or not, but as of now, I haven't looked that much into him.
Okay, David, I know you've got to run off, so thanks for stopping by the show.
Okay, yeah, great. Thanks for talking about this, and have a great night.
Okay, thanks, David. Take care, man. All right, actor Kevin Sorbo had his page removed from Facebook.
Censorship in focus. Actor Kevin Sorbo claiming that Facebook has taken down his page without warning. Facebook in a statement saying, quote, "We removed Kevin Sorbo's page for repeatedly sharing debunked claims about the coronavirus or vaccines." Well, joining me now is actor Kevin Sorbo. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing there?
Good to see you. So your reaction to that statement from Facebook?
You know, they've been shadow banning me for a good year now. I have over 500,000 followers, and they only allow me to see up to 10,000 at a time when I post now. For they've been there for a long time. And every time they come back to me and say, "Hey, look, we got to get rid of this because we think this is their version of fake news," I take it down, even though I could argue with that. But you know, I don't want to lose my page. But this time around, they just took me down. There was no warnings or anything like that. I've been more than happy to take down whatever offensive post that Facebook deemed that I should not be posting. So I question their statement saying that they gave me some warning.
Yeah, no, and cancel culture is alive and well. Brian Brenberg, hop into this.
Yeah, Kevin, you know, you talk about things being removed, or Facebook talks about removing things because they're debunked. I think a lot of people look at the debunking or the fact-checking and they say it's really not fact-checking at all. It's somebody's opinion or the opinion of the prevailing majority. When this happens, does anybody bother to tell you why exactly things are being taken down, explain to you what it is you've missed that's been definitively proven to be false?
No, they just seem to have a blanket statement that says this does not meet with our guidelines and we're taking it down. So, would you please take it down? Otherwise, we're going to take it. We're going to, you're going to lose your account with them. I post things that usually come from what other doctors are saying about the virus, or I post things what other people are saying about the voter fraud. And you know, if that doesn't fit their narrative, they just get rid of you. I mean, freedom of speech, obviously, as we know, has gone out the window, and it's insanity what we're going through right now. And I think it's sad. You know, I would love to have Facebook just put me back on, give me all my followers right now, and I'll tell them to go move over to CloudHub or Parler or somewhere else so they can follow me there. I'm more than happy to leave Facebook, but don't take away the followers that were following me, because the majority of them obviously liked what I was saying and liked what my movies and TV shows that I keep them abreast of. There's always those few people that want to, you know, they love to troll you. I always get a kick out of people that post all this hate stuff back to me. I go, if you hate me, why do you follow me? It cracks me up, but you know, it doesn't bother me in the least.
Well, I was going to ask you about other social media platforms. You mentioned Parler.
Sure. Yep. And yeah, I mean, I think Parler's a good place to go. There's another one out there called CloudHub, which I think is fantastic. Jeff Brain's put together an amazing app there, an amazing social media platform to follow. So I'm jumping on board with those guys right now.
You know, cancel culture, I just mentioned this a moment ago, it seems like it's coming for everyone. You've got the Goya CEO, Chris Harrison, you know, out with the Bachelor show. How do we combat the power of these online mobs that just seemingly have just, I mean, who's going to be next?
I wish I had to answer for that. All I can say is that I find it amazing that places like Facebook have more power than our government, apparently. And the government allows them to do what they're doing right now in terms of just canceling people that they don't agree with on their own politics or whatever it may be, religious, non-religious, whatever it is. And, you know, being a Christian and a conservative in Hollywood, that kind of is like being a double leper. So I've got my own battles to deal with. And thank God for independent movies. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a career right now. So I appreciate the fact that I got things going and things are still happening. So I'm going to give a quick plug for my #1 documentary on Amazon called Before the Wrath. I'm going to throw that out there so people can check that out.
Well, I do want to bring in James Freeman because, James, you and Maria have talked a lot about this topic as well.
Yeah, thanks. Kevin, I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask about what kind of career penalty there is in Hollywood for having these unconventional by Hollywood standard views. I mean, are there people who say, I'd like to work with you, but I just can't? Or what's the feedback?
Oh, yeah, that's happened. You know, my agent and my manager both behind closed doors tell me we can't do it anymore because of the things that you say. And I'm going, wow, isn't this the industry that all screams for tolerance and freedom of speech? But apparently those things are all one-way streets. So it's a battle I got to keep going with. And, you know, I love the industry. I don't harbor all that hate and anger that the left harbors against people that are on the right. I don't get it. It's just sad how much divide that's been going on in our country over the last 10, 12 years, and it just seems to be accelerating on it.
Okay, so the Washington Post reached out to Elon Musk for a response today. Elon Musk said, "Give my regards to your puppet master, Jeff Bezos." Elon Musk said in response to the Washington Post's request for comment on an article published by the newspaper today, give my regards to your puppet master. Okay, what's going on with Mersh here?
Chicago-style hot dog while you're doing this would be really helpful. And then Beardson was like, I don't know, you should talk about it. I'm sorry. I only get 15 minutes in the day to eat and make YouTube videos, so this is the best I can do. So anyway, right, like I was saying, so Nick was saying something about Bitcoin thing, and then was it Beardson or I can't remember, one of those guys. They start. It's like, Jesus, dude. It's a 15-minute video. Put the fucking bagel down and eat it afterwards. You know, I'm just assuming it's a bagel given this fucking lineup of suspects on the fucking channel. By the way, we are talking about America First. We're talking about Beardson, and we're talking about subversion. I think now's a good time, since I set now my stream deck up for OBS, to pull one of these out real quick.
Every single time.
Oh boy. See, that's just felt like that was apropos.
I personally believe that probably his Bitcoin donations are being investigated, but nothing else is. Obviously, he would have to have money to be able to pay for AFPAC somehow. So I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer that he has some form of cash flow. So no, his bank accounts probably aren't all frozen. Let's see, what else did Patrick claim? Nick says that he's not on a no-fly list. Nick says that he's not under investigation by the FBI. He's not broke. Nick says that his bank account isn't frozen. Nick says he's not taking any money from the nonprofit. Nick says that he's not doing AFPAC just for quick cash. Nick says that AFPAC is going to be secure, that he's spoken to.
By the way, can I just tell you this right now? Since Nick Fuentes is actually guaranteeing that 100% that AFPAC will be 100% secure, I would like to be the first person to also make a bold, definitive statement about this event. AFPAC will 100% not be safe, and you will all have your lives ruined. Are we clear? Let's do that. Let's all take bold stances and see who's right come next month. Nick is saying 100% everybody that goes to AFPAC is safe and sound. We are secure. We've never been better. I'm telling you right now, 110%, that if you go to AFPAC and your life is ruined afterwards, I am going to laugh at you. Okay? I don't want to hear, okay, after Berkeley, after Charlottesville, after the Trump rallies, after the fucking DC thing, after everything you've watched unfold for 4 years, if you have managed to witness all of this unfold, and you've somehow managed to come out the other side unscathed, and you decide now's the time, 6 times the charm, I have to tell you in advance that I will not, nor will the Nightwave audience, we will not be able to even pretend to have empathy for you. Okay? We will laugh at you when you get doxxed and you lose your job and you lose your, like, we're going to laugh at you because, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 75 times, I probably deserve to be in jail, frankly. So, don't go to things. Stop going to things. Okay, what weekend is AFPAC? I don't even know. Whatever that weekend is, I got an idea. Go bowling. Because I'll tell you what, do you know, just statistically speaking, I don't know any single white conservative American that has ever been surrounded by the feds, locked up and thrown in a federal prison for bowling. Just do that. Go bowling. Have a barbecue. Do you have any friends who are of like mind and spirit? People who share your values, who live near you? Call them up that weekend. Make sure they also don't go. Have a barbecue. Hang out quietly at your house. You know, go to the shooting range. Have a nice Five Guys burgers fucking lunch. Have a pool party. Exactly. Do literally anything else. And I promise you, that by the next day, when you start seeing all the shit that's going to happen to these people, you're going to go, damn, you know what? That was the smart play was to fucking have a barbecue. You were right, Mersh. I had a barbecue with my buddies. And you know whose house wasn't surrounded by the feds? Mine. The cops came at like 10:30, told us to keep it down. But other than that, it was pretty solid, pretty quiet. So, yeah, go do something. Read a book. Hell, you know what? Be like Razorfist. Go jerk off. Go jerk off and yell at your girlfriend. Do literally anything. Can't go roll bowling, even confined to a wheelchair. It's a good time. See, on the highway gets it. Even if you're on wheels, brother, you don't even have to have legs to go bowling. Have fun. But just don't go to this stupid thing where these dumb e-slugs. Let me tell you something. I know people always give me this shit like, oh, you're just mad, you're jealous. Nick Fuentes is more successful than you. These guys, you're just jealous of these. Okay, fine. You know what? They're all more successful and younger than me. That's fine. I can have that. I've never denied that they're more successful than me or anything like that. But I will tell you this, without a shadow of a doubt, okay, that they are not more moral people than I am. They're not good people. They don't care about you. So if you are willing to, after being handed this many L's, if your first instinct is to show up to a Fed honeypot and sign up for more fucking live streams and more fucking photo ops that are going to get you your life ruined, just as some fucking closeted homosexual who wears boy-sized suits, who has Bitcoin stored away, can squeeze you out of more of your hard-earned money in a time where we're heading into a massive recession, you're a fucking idiot. You're a stupid person. I can tell you that I would feel bad if somebody, you know, did something stupid, like they were trying to change a circuit breaker and they electrocuted themselves. And you go, wow, that sucks, man. I'm sorry about that. But if you took a screwdriver out and went in a second time and tried to get that circuit breaker out and you zap yourself again, that's the point where I laugh at you. And I go, okay, I can't, this is hilarious. Like, how many more metal things are you going to jam into that circuit breaker? You know what I mean? Like, at some point you just got to go, okay, no, you're just literally retarded. So it's funny now. Don't ruin your life for these people. You know what I mean? You know, I'll concede. Yes, you're right. They're more successful than me. They're younger than me. But I can assure you that, to me, when you say somebody, you're jealous of them. To me, jealousy is when you look at somebody and you say, that dude has such a bitchin' life that in order to have that life, I'm willing to be that guy in order to have their life. I'm jealous of very few people in life. I am. I'm jealous of very few people. There are some people in life that I do see and I go, God damn, man, that guy won the genetic lottery. That guy fucks. That guy drives a McLaren. He's got abs. He's got a rich family. That guy fucks, man. That's tight. But I can't be jealous of somebody just because they have more money than me or because they have a nicer, to me, it's like looking at somebody that has a nicer car than you. It's not worth being jealous over if I have to have your life. Jealousy is looking at you and going, I would rather have that person's life. Looking at somebody and going, damn, I wouldn't mind having that kind of money. That's envy. That's light envy. That's like, yeah, I'd be tight if I had money. But like true jealousy is looking at somebody and going, I want that guy's life. And Nick Fuentes is a disingenuous homosexual midget who has been subverting well-intentioned young men's movement so that he can bleed it from as much money as possible. And that's it. That's what he's been doing from day one. And no, I wouldn't want to be that guy. I wouldn't ever want to be a guy. Like, I've always said this. I'm honest to my own detriment. We've had some people that used to donate a lot of money, and I've blocked them and told them to get fucked and never come back here. I've shot myself in the foot many times. I've been rude and shitty to people. Like, I'm not perfect, but I'm honest. And I couldn't live in I couldn't live in a grifter's world. I couldn't sleep at night. I'm already neurotic and anxious enough that I wouldn't be able to live like that. I wouldn't be able to live like a life where I'm lying to mass amounts of people. I can't do that. So no, like when people go, you're just jealous. No, I can't. I'm not. He's living in a fucking prison. He's living in a psychological and emotional prison. He can't even be honest about being a gay guy. If I were a gay guy, I would be bragging about all the dicks I was sucking. Okay? If I was a gay guy, I would be like, yeah, I'm a gay guy. Don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know why this is the way it is. I don't know why the sky's blue. But God damn it, I'm a gay guy. He can't even be honest about that. So how does he sleep at night? Right? How does he sleep at night? Brett H says he killed Shallot. I keep hearing that stuff, and I don't know what that story is about. But so you'd be Milo. Yeah, but Milo, to his credit, at least is like, oh, I'm a flaming homosexual, and I'll wear $30,000 shirts, and I'm broke. LOL, be Tim Dillon. That's what I mean. But like, even Tim Dillon, to his credit, is like, I'm a gay guy. That's what I do. That's what he does. It's fine. But yeah, no, there's no jealousy because I wouldn't want to be a liar. I wouldn't want to be a closeted. I wouldn't want to be a guy that tells everybody every week how I'm the expert on what being a Catholic is. And there's not a single shred of evidence that I've been inside of a church. There is more evidence that Nick Fuentes has been inside of a cat boy in the last year than there is any evidence that he has been inside of a church. Is that a valid point? We have more evidence that he's been inside of an Australian cat boy than we have evidence that he's been inside of a church. I wouldn't want to be that guy, man. I wouldn't. That's why when people go like, when people give me shit about the Dick Masterson stuff, and they go, how could you deal with Dick Masterson? And I'm like, because Dick Masterson is what he is. Dick Masterson and I share a very Popeye-esque philosophy in life. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. And I will wear every fucking flaw that I have on my sleeve. I'll bear everything, and I'll tell everybody shit, and I'll sometimes be wrong. Sometimes I'll just be a miserable asshole drunk guy that people hate, and that's okay. That's okay. It's like I've learned even with the trolls that hate me. They hate me, and that's okay. But I would never want to live in the psychological prison of continuing to indulge those people. We've always said that the subreddit people and most of the people that, the other podcasts that all attack me, these were all fans at one point. Every single one of them was a fan of the show that I was mean to, or I didn't give them enough love. But for me to have indulged them, I would have been building a prison, a little box for myself that I wouldn't have been able to escape from. I'm not going to pretend to like people because they give me money. I'm not going to pretend to like people because they watch my show. I'm not going to pretend to like people because they retweet me or because they compliment me. I'm not going to pretend. So I can't be jealous or envious of people who pretend for most of the time they're awake every day. That sounds like hell. That sounds like being in a relationship with a woman that you despise and still having to get up every day and go, I love you too, sweetie. That sounds like hell. Let's finish this video up.
Spoken to a criminal attorney, someone who specializes with FBI and federal crime and investigations, and he's confirmed that on the kill stream. Said that attorney said that everything should be okay as long as.
By the way, I just want to point out Brittany's veiny tits. The only time that's okay is if you have kids. I will concede that. If you do have kids, you still need to pretend. There's certain things that are off limits, when you have kids, in my opinion. You certainly shouldn't get a divorce. You shouldn't be openly hostile with each other in front of the kids. There shouldn't be any kind of abuse. There's just some things you don't do around kids, right? No divorces. Let the kids have their thing, and then divorce them afterward. Leave that bitch. Who gives a shit? Take off. Be done with it. But no, you're right. There's some things you have to just protect, because the other thing is like suicide. Like if somebody kills themselves, I have a very libertarian philosophy about suicide. Like it's sort of the way I feel about abortion. Like spiritually, I'm against it. I personally wouldn't kill myself. And I certainly don't think spiritually that it's a good thing to kill yourself, but that's my belief. But I also have this libertarian belief that if you're in pain and you're sad and you can't fix everything, you should be allowed it. Like you have total autonomy over your body, in my opinion. You should be allowed to kill yourself. You should be allowed to use experimental drugs. This is how I feel about it. So like, but I also have a rule about parents. Like parents you're not allowed to have a life if you're a parent. Parents are not, you're a parent. It's almost like joining the military. You don't, until that contract is up, until that kid is in college or that kid is like an established adult, that like when you manage to get your sons and daughters up to age 18 and there's some college money for them and they're going to go to a trade school and they came out unmolested and they actually have a good fucking moral compass, you did your job. And then if you want to get divorced or kill yourself, go ahead. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Go blow your fucking brains out. Who cares? But there is people that just like, when I hear a story about somebody who had a kid, like Kurt Cobain killed himself and he had a young daughter, and now his young daughter is like some fucking whore. It was like, you know what I mean? You always see her all fucking smacked out of her mind and hanging out with like white SoundCloud rappers, and you're like, at the Met Gala, and you're like, what happened? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you did that. You fucked that shit up. So yeah, I will say that you do have to fake your way through relationships if you still have kids. Just give them that much.
It's all above the table as long as everything there is legal, which of course Nick said that it's going to be. Now, Nick also said that the venue won't be canceled because they've gone to the higher ups where the venue works and they've solidified the contract. And even if they do back out, he has a second venue. He says that he didn't pressure Casey in any regard. So in this 3 hour and 45-minute conversation where Nick was there for 80 minutes on the kill stream, Nick kind of vindicates himself, just pretty much clears the air entirely. And Patrick hasn't really responded. And Patrick said he has receipts. He said he has evidence, but I've yet to see that. And this is an interesting moment. Patrick Casey did put this on Telegram saying, the outpour of support has been overwhelming. Thank you. To be clear, I wanted to avoid this, but after repeated attempts to smear me and ruin my life.
By the way, I want to point something out. And this is something I've learned, like from seeing people going to do like shows and seeing how their studios are set up. On camera filth, on camera messiness is kind of like, if you want to figure out how messy a streamer is, it's kind of like trying to figure out how many men a woman has slept with. If she tells you she slept with a certain number, you multiply it by a certain number and you get the real number. When it comes to shows that do like whatever their on-camera messes is like what a woman's on-the-record sexual partners are. If she's like, oh yeah, how many guys you fucked? Oh, I only have a bag of chips and like I have one empty can and an empty cup and 2 empty fast food cups. But other than that, off camera, it's super clean. Let me tell you something. If you have here's a rolled up bag of chips, which by the way, get yourself some clothespins or the clips. Get some bag clips. All right, your chips are gonna go stale, Beardson. Jay Cash says the founding fathers seem like Peter Drucker compared to these inept brats. Now I don't know who Peter Drucker is, but is Jay Cash? Guys, I don't want to call out anybody. I really don't want to like dox or out anybody, but I apologize in advance, Jay Cash, but I might be doxing him here. I'm pretty sure that's Dennis Miller. Is that Dennis Miller? Hey, Jay Cash, if you're Dennis Miller, press 1. I just want to know. Press 2 if you're not Dennis Miller. Press 3 if you are Dennis Miller, but you don't want everybody to know, so you're saying no. 3 is that option. But I'm pretty sure that was a Dennis Miller. Wow, these guys make the founding fathers look like Peter Drucker. Oh, I haven't heard of Peter Drucker since I was in fucking business school 15 years ago. Damn, that really was a fucking Dennis Miller reference. These guys make the founding fathers look like Peter Drucker, babe.
Life. By those who I once called my friends, I was forced to.
Oh yeah. So back to my point. I wanted to point out that Beardson, look at this, has the folded up bag of chips. He has a mug that is, by the way, you can see it here. It's whatever is in it. It's not full, but it had something in it, either coffee or hot cocoa. It had some kind of a dark, viscous type beverage in it. That is, he drank it down, and then it hardened or whatever. So that mug's been sitting in there a couple days. He's got the fucking folded bag of chips. Here's a McDonald's cup. You guys might not even notice that, but it's an extra large, empty McDonald's cup from probably a couple of days prior. And then behind that is a White Claw can, maybe a White Claw or a seltzer, some kind of a can. So he's got the can, the McDonald's cup, the dirty coffee mug, and the fucking, I know I'm going like full Mike David here by being like a kvetching Jew about it. Like, oh my God, an empty cup in his studio.
Okay, JFRP is talking
about speech that others don't have, but without just wanted to underline the fact that he did, and He's getting praise from some of our friends, from Richard. And the Young Pharaoh is the guy who got recently cancelled from a CPAC, a CPAC invitation. And they first invited him. He was supposed to talk at this conservative conference, and they changed their mind. They said, because they got some pressure from Media Matters, looking into old statements of his and seeing that he had developed some opinions. I will not get into the detail, but he has an opinion on religion and various aspects of it. And among the claims that he does, phrasing it in the way I can, the guy claims, and I'll tell you what, listening to the stream, he's a very intelligent man. He defines himself as a self-educated black man, and it was quite honorable how he lays his argument. I don't agree with everything he said, but he's very articulate, and he jumps from street language to very articulate language seamlessly. It's like at times he is talking about gangs in the streets, and at other times he is sorry for the cough. At other times he is talking about arguments, and he has a position on demographics and religion. Essentially, his claim is that the people who today believe in Judaism are not necessarily all of the same people that used to believe and establish Judaism traditionally. And it's kind of inevitable that it's the case, just like it is the case in Christianity.
No, it's not the case. So Jews today are descended from the Levant. They're the same people, essentially, who were Jews 2,000 years ago.
Christianity was established in Rome, and I probably don't have much Italian ancestry, yet I am educated and raised in a Christian environment. So what he's saying is not radical in much ways, if you take it that way. It's absolutely understandable, but he has been targeted by the Media Matters and the thought police of this world, and they didn't want him to have a platform, so they removed it from him. He goes into details. He has PowerPoints, hundreds of pages about Jeffrey Epstein, and all right, the guy is extremely articulate, and it's a great person that I discovered that I didn't know about at all. I never heard anything from him before this stream, and look at this, he's a verified YouTuber. Now, how long can that last given this stream? I don't know, and it's funny, this whole imagery that he's developed around Young Pharaoh, that there is this belief that people of African descent may have participated to the pyramids, and who knows? I don't know. I'm not an Egyptian ethnologist, and so I don't know. But they have this claim sometimes, and okay, Young Pharaoh, he has a golden snake around him, and there he is laying out his theories and extremely edgy stuff. Very surprised by what I've heard, and I don't know if he will be able to maintain his YouTube channel if he does this, or maybe there's a kind of free pass. Maybe he has privileges about speech that others don't have. But without getting into the details of the rest, shout out to this great stream, and. Yeah, so very stunned. Stephen Robinson says, why would Media Matters care? They are a leftist organization, and CPAC is on the right, or are they all on the same team? Well, more and more what we see is these leftist organizations, yes, are getting in the intricate micromanagement of the conservative movements, and the conservative movement lets them. And so, yes, it's deplorable, but it's what's happening. So we have to deal with it. We have to accept it. Yes, there has been bannings. On YouTube, Millennial Woes, and someone else who has, Way of the World ban. So we are losing voices on YouTube. But today I wanted to do a show to celebrate diversity, and Young Pharaoh is part of the diversity that makes the YouTube space a great space. I don't want him to be banned, and I think he's laying out his hypotheses, sometimes in a provocative manner, but at times in a very intelligent way. And it's worthwhile to have this discussion, ethnically.
Okay, JF isn't saying anything.
So what you see behind me is the world's first fully reusable rocket. You've seen rockets lift off, but you've never seen one land before.
You can imagine that if planes were not reusable, very few people would fly. 747 is about $300 million. You'd need 2 of them for a round trip. And yet I don't think anyone here has paid $500 million to fly.
It's like getting in your 747 and flying across the country and then throwing the 747 away. You only use it one time.
Jeff who?
It will dramatically reduce the cost of space exploration, some estimate by 100-fold.
About 100-fold.
So what does this mean for the future of space exploration that you pulled this off?
Well, what we've done is we've demonstrated that it's possible.
But he was also very quick to point out the difference between space and orbit, suggesting that perhaps what Blue Origin pulled off is somewhat easier. Is he right about that?
No, he's not. What SpaceX is trying to do is actually very similar.
You're obviously a very competitive person. You're competing with the likes of Jeff Bezos in...
Jeff who?
Okay, Young Pharaoh here. Let's get a little bit more from Young Pharaoh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, we interview a man who's a fighter, a man who happens to be a rapper, and a man who also happens to be an activist. And on today's show, Young Pharaoh joins us to share why the Democrats created the KKK. I repeat, the Democrats created the KKK, and why the Republican Party was started to end slavery. Oh yes, and on today's show, Young Pharaoh explains why this black man says Barack Obama was a terrible human. All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download.
And if you don't know, now you know.
3, 2, 1, boom! You are now entering the dojo of Mojo and the Thrive Time Show.
Drive Time Show on the microphone. What is this? Top of the iTunes charts in the category of business. Drilling down on business topics like we are a dentist. Providing you with mentorship like
each other as human beings to actually interact with each other based off of what we think, because that is where true value lies. And I want to once again give you guys a special shout out and send my love and appreciation to you, your entire platform, and everyone that follows this platform.
Well, brother, I appreciate you. Now, I want to make sure the folks out there that know this, because I'd say 2/3 of our 500,000 listeners will listen to the show and never see the show. So I want to bring this up.
Okay, and this was recorded October 22nd of 2020.
I was doing my research for today's show, and it occurred to me that you appear to be black. Is that am I 100% correct? Are you 100% black?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So you're a black guy, but yet you appear to be objective when it comes to politics. You appear to look at the facts, look at the truth, and then make a decision. Now, there's a lot of people that have thought for a long time that you have to vote Democrat if you're black. If we could just start there for a second, what would you say to all of the non-white listeners, Hispanic listeners, Asian listeners, black listeners, and the white listeners? What would you say about the Democratic Party right now?
Well, to give two answers to that question, because in my mind, I got two questions out of that. So I want to give two answers. First, I have to say you have to learn how to be an adult. The first thing that adults do is they research, or at least it should be the first thing that you do. We research in every area of our lives. If you want to cook something, you have to research what's the best ingredients, whether it be flavor, seasoning, whatever, to make this meal taste the best.
Preach.
So when it comes to the political system or any political system, it's like a meal, and we're prepping this meal. But you wouldn't just let me come into your house and tell you what to put in your food, and you've never tried it or researched the potential outcome of that taste. So when it comes to black people voting Democrat, first, to kill the stereotype, we should not, as adults, be doing everything solely by what somebody else tells us. That is what the life of the life of children is comprised of via their parents. Once we reach a certain level of maturity, your mind and your thoughts become your responsibility solely. And if you and I'm giving that introduction to this answer is to let people know before I give my answer, I have a library that is in value of excess of $20,000. All I do is read and research for a living. I started a debate league. I actually put $50,000 on myself, and I'll debate anybody on anything I disagree with, and I don't care. I prefer the best.
Where do you live? What city do you come from, Young Pharaoh? Where do you come from?
From Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York.
Yes, sir. And coming from Buffalo, New York, with all of this research and information, before I say what I say, I want people to know I'm very real research. And I'm not about to say what I'm about to say out of slander. I'm not about to say what I'm about to say out of trying to play the racism card or any of that crap. I'm saying what I'm about to say out of records that you can go research from 1872, United States Congress is right there in the stenography and in the transcripts. The Democratic Party started the Ku Klux Klan. They have taken...
Okay, let's get something, Tanya Gersh here, how a Montana mom became a leader in fighting anti-Semitism. This video released February 16th of this year from the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center.
We decided to fight. We won. And now when my children and my children's children discuss this, they're going to remember, yeah, this happened to us. And what happened to us was terrible. But we fought and we won. And I'll tell you what, that is far less scary. This other question that I get asked a lot is, what about the Spencer family? Why did they not get held accountable for this? And what is it like now? Do you still share your town with the Spencer family? And the answer is yes, I do share my town with the Spencer family. I share my community. But you know what? In my community, I live freely. I'm supported by my community. I am loved by my community. And they can't get served in restaurants. They're not. To tell you the truth, Sherry, I don't think I would even recognize her if I saw her. I have never met her in person. I do have to live with the fact that they are out there. And I think that in the end, they got what they deserved. I never did receive an apology from them. So I think that I answered the two big questions from the beginning. So with that, save some questions for the end. And I want to start also with a story about luggage. I spoke at in Portland, Oregon, for the Jewish Federation there. And while I was there, I went to the Portland, Oregon Holocaust Memorial. And on the ground at the memorial is this beautiful bronze piece of luggage. And when I saw it, I stopped and I lingered for so long. I sat down next to it, I touched it, I felt it. Because when this first happened, my husband the night that he told me that I was on a neo-Nazi website with a call of attack on my family to come and get us, he got the luggage out of the storage and put it on the floor of our bedroom. And he said, "Tanya, we need to pack." And I said, "Well, why? Where are we going?" And he said, "I don't know, but we need to pack." And I said, "Well, what am I packing for? Are we packing for a long time or are we packing for a short time?" And he said, "Tanya, I don't know. I'm not sure." And I said, "Well, do you think that I should go wake the children? Like, are we leaving right now?" And he said, "I don't know, Tanya. I don't know. I don't know where we're going. I don't know what's happening, but I know we need to go." So that luggage sat on the floor of my bedroom for about 5 months, half packed, not knowing if we should run or if we should go. We ultimately decided to stay because we had outside resources that helped us understand what was happening to us. But we never knew during that entire process if we should run, if we should go. Like the Jews during the Holocaust. Can you imagine the amount of luggage that was packed with people asking, "Where are we going? Are we..."
Okay, let's get a different perspective here on the Jewish question.
Hello, my friends.
Holly and John.
It's been a while since I've done a good old-fashioned car video. Today I wanted to talk to you about a recent article that I read in the New York Times. And it's called "Don't Go Down That Rabbit Hole." And basically, this article relates to some of the things that I said in my video about the psychology of conspiracy deniers. It openly is telling the readers of the New York Times that they shouldn't attempt to debunk or refute the arguments of conspiracy theorists or racists online, and that they really, all they should be doing is ignoring them completely. And in a lot of ways, this article is implicitly, and some unintendedly humorous ways, implicitly treating the audience as if they were straight up NPC robots that are sort of programmed and swayed purely on the quantity of information that is given to them. That if they start reading read the article yourself, and you'll see that they treat the reader as if merely by reading and
Right, so what he's saying here is that he does not buy the zombie bite theory of information. That people, read a book and then suddenly they get sent off in a whole, bizarre direction, or people read a blog post or a tweet or listen to a podcast and they just get bit like a zombie bite, and then their life just spins out of control. And I've often spoken on here, I don't believe in the zombie bite theory of information. If people get spun by a book or a podcast or a show, it's because they had this trouble going on inside of them, and it was simply a book or a show that unleashes what was already latent inside of them and was going to come out anyway in some twisted form.
Focusing on and spending their time and attention on reading a certain perspective on the world, that they will have their own perspective warped in a way that they can't control, and that they aren't capable, the average reader is not capable of learning other perspectives, learning information from other viewpoints, and still maintaining their own viewpoint on the world. That's the way that these people are treated implicitly by the New York Times. So I'll tell you right now, this idea that just consuming information is going to persuade you or sway you to a certain worldview, it's ridiculous. I've spent my entire life, I spent 12 years of schooling, I spent 4 years in university consuming.
Okay, so great challenge here from Ricardo. So, Luke, if you're saying that someone who shares a piece of information bears very little responsibility for what an individual does with that information, is that not analogous to if I sneeze on you and you die of coronavirus later this week? Isn't it your fault that your immune system is not capable of dealing with the viral load I subjected you to? Well, number one, it may not be your fault, right? You may have a compromised immune system without regard to anything that you've done. Number two, an adult should have much more ability to deal with information as compared to dealing with the coronavirus. For some people, due to their genetic structure, due to their life situation, they're going to be much more vulnerable to the COVID virus. And I just don't see people being vulnerable to information in the same way, right? If you get a piece of information that spins you out of control, then there's something latent in you that needed to grow up. Now, many of these people who are dying of COVID, they didn't have 3 months to live. They didn't have, generally speaking, a year to live. According to what I've read, they had on average 10 years to live. So no, I don't think, fat old people are the equivalent of those who get twisted by a piece of information. So those who die of COVID, sometimes it's absolutely no fault of their own. It's just that they're old or their immune system is compromised. Now, for some people, it is a fault of their own because they simply have not done the things that they should do to take good care of themselves. But it's a great challenge. I'm not sure I answered it very well.
Leftist propaganda bullshit from all sides every day. I even had to write some of it to get by in certain classes. And guess what? I wasn't swayed by the overload of information. I wasn't just blown like a leaf in the wind toward that side, even though it was the amount of information that I was receiving from a leftist perspective was just overwhelming. I wasn't persuaded. So how did that work out? How was that supposed to, how do they explain that? And really, by the way, this is the type of justification that they give when they say things like they need to repeal or revise the First Amendment and that hate speech should not.
So no normal functioning adult needs to be frightened of any ideas or any books, but every normal functioning adult needs to take sensible precautions with regard to COVID. So yeah, that's my perspective. Take sensible precautions, do the best you can to reduce your chances of getting COVID. I don't believe that a normal adult needs to be worried about what will happen to him if he reads Mein Kampf.
Be free speech, because they have adopted this worldview that people are so malleable and so gullible that just consuming the information is going to cause them to become a racist or a sexist or a conspiracy theorist or whatever, as if they've caught a virus, as if they've caught some kind of infection. And I mean, the very fact that I'm always open to hearing their point of view and debating their point of view and learning as much as I can about their point of view to refute them, as opposed to them not even wanting to hear a point of view like mine, because they argue that just hearing my point of view is going to cause them to adopt it like it's some kind of mind virus. That should show you what side you're on. Just wanted to say that as well. And it's funny, it's sad, it's honestly a little surprising, and it makes you wonder who the hell is so just beat down, demoralized, and just really beat into a state of complete abject self-deprecation and submission, that they would read this and think to themselves like, yeah, I really need to protect myself from these harmful influences because...
Well, nobody thinks that they need to protect themselves. The people who promote this zombie bite theory of information, they don't believe it applies to them. So they don't believe they need to protect themselves. They want to protect, dumber, more vulnerable people from this dangerous information. So just like people who advocate pornography censorship, they usually don't claim, oh, if I look at pornography, it's going to turn my life upside down. No, they can handle it. It's everyone else who's so weak and vulnerable.
Oh my gosh, if I just spend a couple of hours reading about the viewpoints of racists, that, I could find myself just slipping into that mentality. It's something that this is how people are sucked into this horrible worldview, that they're not careful enough. They're not, they're not strict enough with...
Okay, so there are very intelligent people making a case for white nationalism, like a Greg Johnson, a William Pierce, a Yggdrasil, a Jared Taylor, etc. But you're not going to turn your life upside down. You're not going to start behaving in socially destructive or even personally destructive ways simply because you read their books. If you do, then I will bet you dollars to donuts that you have a track record of instability, of neuroticism that leaves you wide open. A normal, healthy person can read any book, can contemplate any idea. You got an IQ north of 120, and you're not going to get infected.
How they spend their attention and how they allocate their focus, that they could just find themselves unintentionally reading about racist ideas or conspiracy theories and then just falling down the rabbit hole. It could happen to anybody. It's really a disturbing worldview. And at first, when I start reading things like this, my first reaction is that this is so belittling and so condescending to humanity in general, and especially to our people in general, that it makes me upset. It makes me frustrated. It gets me angry because they're telling people that they're incapable of thinking for themselves, that they're incapable of, thinking critically. And if they're so sure that racist or conspiracy theory ideas are nonsense, then why don't they come debunk it? Why don't they come refute it? If they're so afraid to consume the information, if consuming the information is something that they're afraid will convince them or persuade them, then aren't they afraid that it's correct, that there's something true in what racists or conspiracy...
Exactly. Those who propound the zombie bite theory of information are inherently stating that this information that they want to control is viral. That once people just simply give this information a chance, it will take over their lives. So this perspective is coming from a place of weakness, that they're so afraid that there are certain dissident thoughts will just take over somebody's life and turn them into evil terrorists. That if you believe that racist information has the capacity to go viral, then you're saying that an ordinary person given a fair go is going to buy into this racist information.
Conspiracy theorists are saying. And isn't the internet one of these things that ideally was meant to give everybody an equal footing in terms of access to information, and something that ideally allows everybody?
And a great challenge from alt-right talk. And he says, I don't know, even smart people get driven crazy by certain ideas, like the Pharaoh guy. So I'm not sure Young Pharaoh is that smart. No, I don't think people inherently get driven crazy by certain ideas. Most people have a family. Most people have a job. Most people have a community. Most people have hobbies. And so the amount of time available that they have for thinking about abstract matters is quite limited. So no, I do not believe that smart people moderately intelligent people, your average healthy person with a family, a job, a mortgage, a religious community, someone with hobbies and friends, that they're getting driven crazy by ideas. Most people are way too busy to spend much time wrestling with ideas.
To become somewhat of experts on anything. That if you have the time, the inclination, the energy to devote hours and hours of research into any topic, then that's the beauty of the internet, is that you now have this access to something that can make you an expert on anything, because that's how intelligence should work. This is my naive worldview. That's how intelligence should work. If you are an intelligent person, then there's no, like, intelligence is not something that is relegated to a single subject. Intelligence is a general concept. And if you're intelligent in general, as I think naively I used to think most humans were, then you can apply that intelligence to anything. That the understanding of one subject, in principle, is the same method or methodology of understanding that you would apply to any other subject. There's no specialized methodology of understanding. Understanding is something that is a general applied concept, and the way that you can learn concepts in math is the same way that you can learn concepts in...
Okay, so what about the madness of crowds? The madness of crowds is a myth. We did not evolve to be gullible. There's no way we would be here after thousands and thousands of years of evolution if we were anywhere near as gullible as this New York Times article tries to argue, if we were anywhere as gullible as the Anti-Defamation League and the Southern Poverty Law Center and our elites who want to restrict our access to information. We wouldn't be here, right? We did not evolve to be gullible. There's no way that evolution would work in a way that we would just like read one book and completely turn our lives upside down. That's not a normal reaction. That just makes no sense looking at things from an evolutionary perspective. So you got to read this terrific book by Hugo Mercier, a French neuroscientist, Not Born Yesterday, The Science of Who We Trust and What We Believe. Right? So there's this long line of scholarship, that tries to make the case for widespread credulity, from ancient Greece to 21st century America, from most progressive to the most reactionary, loves to portray the great mass of people as just hopelessly gullible. And they try to argue that voters just submissively follow demagogues, that crowds get worked up into rampages by bloodthirsty leaders, that masses cow to charismatic personalities. It's bogus, it's false, it's bunk, it's stupid. Hitler didn't change people's minds about the Jews. The type of people who responded to Hitler already had Hitler's perspective or were sympathetic to Hitler's perspective, including Hitler's perspective on Jews. The type of people who supported the Nazis were people who were going to do well when the Nazis took power. The type of people who opposed the Nazis were those who were going to suffer when the Nazis took power. So there is not a madness of crowds. It's just bogus, right? We don't indiscriminately catch whatever emotion we happen to witness or read about or listen to. We inherently tend to exert emotional vigilance, even when we're in the middle of a crowd. Okay, for us to react to the emotional signals sent to us by a charismatic speaker or by a crowd, the reaction has to suit our current plans and our current mental states. The sender has to be somebody we like and respect, not somebody who's proven unreliable in the past. And our emotional reaction has to seem justified. Their emotional reaction has to seem justified to us. Otherwise, we'll probably not react at all, or we'll likely react in a way opposite to that intended. We may well rejoice in somebody's pain, or we may be angered by their display of anger. All right, so Hitler. All right, so, Hitler, how was he perceived by ordinary Germans? How did he gain, broad popular support? Well, he told people, a certain crowd what they wanted to hear. All right, and those who were predisposed to his message, they liked it, and those who had positive feelings about Jews, they did not like it. So this power of demagogues to influence the masses is just widely exaggerated. So we hear about, prophets able to whip up crowds into some kind of fervor that leads to suicidal acts, to self-sacrifice, to doomed crusades. But if we step back, it's clear that what matters is the audience's pre-existing state of mind and the audience's pre-existing condition, material condition, psychological condition, spiritual condition. It's not the prophet's power of persuasion. Hitler didn't persuade people. Hitler simply spoke to what some people already believed. Once people are ready for extreme action, then some prophet will rise up and provide the spark that lights the fire. Religious conversion is not usually caused by preachers, creating these feats of mass persuasion. Religious conversion, with very few exceptions, is driven by strong pre-existing relationships. Friends recruit friends, families bring other family members into the fold. I was listening to someone on the radio, Dennis Prager, and a lot of the things he told me match my experience with my new Jewish friends at UCLA. Even when people are recruited by friends or family, conversion usually entails some social costs inflicted by those not already converted. So, does not conversion reflect the feat of persuasion, getting someone to accept a whole new set of beliefs? No. People convert to something that suits them. Like, the Jewish outlook suits me. The Jewish life suits me. Judaism suits me. It intrigues me. Okay, therefore, when you convert to something that suits you, summarizing academic literature on new religious movements, the psychological emotional condition of most converts improves rather than declines after joining. Even costly behavior, such as donating 10% of your income, can prove beneficial because it makes sense that many people would prefer to live in a community in which everyone shares so much. And exotic beliefs don't really play a big role in conversion. For example, the doctrine of the Messiah plays very little role in the way Judaism is lived. So beliefs typically follow involvement. You meet people, you like people, and then you want to be around people that you like. And then you take on the beliefs to whatever extent you do after you join people you like. So strong attachment to people, strong emotional attachment, strong physical attachment to people, strong social attachment, that's what draws people into a religious group. And then the strong beliefs, they develop slowly or they never develop at all. Okay, most people are not religious because of the sublimity of the theology. Most people stay in a religion or join a religion because there are people in it that they like. So if you want to know more about this, check out Not Born Yesterday, The Science of Who We Trust and What We Believe.
Biology or history or physics or engineering. This is how I used to think about the world. And I do, to some extent, still think about the world in this way. I do believe that intelligence works that way, that there's no such thing as expert understanding or expert knowledge that is inaccessible to the average person, as long as you have intelligence as an average person. There's no concept that an expert or authority, sorry, I'm fixing my camera. There's no concept that an expert, I'm just gonna hold it because it fell off the hook. But there's no concept that an expert or an authority on a subject can grasp that anybody else can't grasp. It's something that...
Yeah, there are plenty of things, all right? There are plenty of things that you can't intuit. You can't intuit how to build a nuclear weapon. You can't intuit how the Talmud works. You can't intuit how Judaism works. So there are a lot of things that an average person can understand through his intuition without needing any special knowledge, but there are a lot of things that you do need some knowledge.
If it's understandable, if a concept is intelligible, then any intelligent person can grasp it. You don't have to be a PhD holder in a certain subject to have a general understanding of the subject. Okay, so that's my naive perspective, is that it makes me upset that the establishment now is telling people that they're not qualified to understand things, and that if they're not an expert, they shouldn't even attempt to read something that is outside of the mainstream because they're not qualified to refute it or to engage in it. And that in doing so, they will just be swayed by the information, swayed by the arguments, because they're basically robots that are programmed by whatever information is ready at hand. That is condescending, a belittling, a very disturbing.
And so people want to talk about Hitler and what if he'd had a podcast. There's absolutely no evidence that Hitler changed people's minds about Jews. Right? Hitler surfed on a wave of virulent anti-Marxism. That was a cause that he shared with the church and business elites. So as Germany's situation became increasingly dire, Germany was going to choose one of two total solutions by the early 1930s. They were either going to go communist or they were going to go fascist. If they went communist, the German army was going to revolt and you would have had civil war. The only option that Germany had for a government that did not immediately plunge the country into civil war was to go fascist. Now, Hitler gave hundreds of speeches. He spoke on the radio. Were his rhetorical efforts successful? No. There's no evidence that Hitler's speeches changed the Nazis' electoral fortunes. I mean, look at the work of political scientists like Peter Solb and Simon Munzert. Right? There's no evidence that Hitler's countless speeches had a big impact on the Nazis' electoral fortunes. Once Hitler arrived in power, his appeal waxed and waned depending upon the economic and then later the military situation of Germany. When things were good for Germans, when the economy started booming after Hitler took power, then he was popular. When there were economic and then military problems, then he lost popularity, same as with any other leader. Right? Hitler didn't just zap people with his zombie-like powers of rhetoric. So when 1939 came around, Germans tightened their belts for the war effort, discontent began to grow. Like prior to 1939, Germany had enjoyed a massive economic boom. So from 1934 to 1939, Hitler was highly popular because Germans were materially in much better shape, and they were also asserting themselves on the public stage. Germany was growing. Germany was getting over the humiliation of Versailles. So when Hitler was doing things that improved the lives and the self-image and the material condition of average Germans, he became popular. When he did things that lowered the self-image, the material prospects, the social prospects, the lifestyle for average Germans, his popularity nosedived. After the Nazi disaster, there was the Battle of Stalingrad. Support for Hitler just went into the toilet. People stopped seeing him as an inspirational leader. Vicious rumors began to circulate, even though sharing them was a capital crime. From 1943, after Stalingrad, until his suicide in April 1945, many Germans were openly critical of Hitler. So far from shaping German public opinion, Hitler responded to it. So more than any other exponent of propaganda, Ian Kershaw notes, Hitler had an extremely sensitive awareness of the tolerance level of the masses. Okay, to gain control, he had to preach messages that ran against his worldview. So during Hitler's rise to power, he generally speaking downplayed his anti-Jewish attitudes. He generally speaking barely mentioned it in public speeches. He refused to sign on for a boycott of Jewish shops. So like other demagogues, Hitler was unable to rely on his own powers of persuasion to influence the masses. Rather, he played on people's pre-existing opinions. The whole Nazi propaganda machine, not terribly effective. Very little effect. Those who were already predisposed to the Nazi worldview supported it, and those who were predisposed to oppose the Nazi worldview opposed it. So this whole idea of the power of demagogues to influence the masses is wildly exaggerated. And the same thing as prophets, right? Prophets come along to, whip the crowds into fervor that leads to, suicide and self-sacrifice. No, it's not the prophet's power of persuasion. It's once people are ready for extreme action, some podcast or person will come along and provide the spark. So if mere repetition were effective, you'd think that areas with greater exposure to Nazi propaganda would see the sharpest rise in anti-Semitism. Not true.
View of mankind to my naive perspective. But then I thought about it again, okay? I thought about it again and considered the fact that, yeah, most people are these programmable idiots that are incapable of genuine critical thought.
Okay, that's nonsense. All right, people tend to make pretty good decisions for their own immediate well-being. All right, whether or not you believe the every word of the Torah is divine, or whether or not you believe that the Messiah is coming, okay, it doesn't really matter for your immediate well-being. All right? So sheer exposure to Nazi propaganda had no effect, all right, on shaping people's attitudes towards Jews. It was the presence of pre-existing anti-Jewish attitudes that explained regional variation in Germany not the effectiveness of Nazi propaganda, right? Areas that were the most anti-Jewish before Hitler came to power, they were the most receptive to Nazi propaganda, right? So for people in these areas, the anti-Jewish propaganda was a reliable cue that the government was on their side, and thus they felt they could freely express their views, right? So it can shift that way. People have these views, say they don't like Jews, but they feel some social sanction against expressing those views. You get an anti-Jewish party taking power, it dominates the media, and then they can send out messages that, hey, it's A-okay to express your dislike of Jews. So radio propaganda, effective in places where anti-Jewish attitudes were already historically high. Nazi radio propaganda had a negative effect in places with historically low anti-Jewish attitudes. Generally speaking, Germans did not heed calls to boycott Jewish stores and to ostracize Jews in general. It was only through terror and legal discrimination that the Nazis achieved the economic and increasingly social exclusion of Jews from German life. Okay. What have I got?
That are swayed by a myriad of social pressures, including whatever is just close at hand, whatever information is fed to them through repetition.
Okay, let me go back to the chat. How does Luke explain a Jesus or a Prophet Muhammad or Joseph Smith? These people became successful because they told people what they wanted to hear. It wasn't that they completely changed individuals' lives. They came with a message that people were receptive to. If people are not going to be receptive to your message, you can have all the rhetorical skill of the greatest rhetoricians in history, and it'll make absolutely no difference. If you're raised in the Hitler Youth reading Hitler books, that's going to shape you. It's only going to shape you if you're predisposed to that. All right? If your family raised you with the opposite worldview, it's not going to shape you. My aunt was a child in Munich during the war. She said she was hungry. When they ran out of food stamps, they had no food. My aunt said people didn't criticize the regime or they would disappear. Read Richard Evans, Luke. I've read Richard Evans. Yeah, the older generation didn't change that much. Younger generations did change in the 1930s. There's plenty of evidence for this. In areas where anti-Jewish attitudes were widespread, they took on those attitudes, but there's no evidence that Nazi propaganda shifted people. On the internet, lots of lost people who want companionship and validation. They are seekers. They're very vulnerable to Jonestown-like phenomena. People have to connect, all right? So if people don't connect healthfully, they'll connect in an unhealthy way. So people need human connection. And if they don't get that human connection, they will become desperate and they will connect with either substances or processes. There are only 28 people of us here, not enough to even fill a small beer hall. Okay, so let's look. Were we born yesterday? So he talks, there's a chapter in this excellent book, Not Born Yesterday, about rumors. And so there was a rumor in one French town that the Jewish owners of a department store used to kidnap Gentile women and sell them into slavery, white slavery. And these rumors were widespread even though there was no evidence for them. So how come? Surely we are vulnerable to rumors if so many people could believe a rumor. Well, how did people actually behave? Right? They would talk about, say, this department store that they're kidnapping women and selling them into white slavery, but they don't recruit the police. It's like all those people who say abortion is murder. Like if abortion's really murder and you've got a murder factory going on down the street, what are you going to do about it? Are you just going to pick it? No. If you really believe that abortion is murder, you're not just going to pick it. The problem is some people really do believe abortion is murder and they react in a criminal way. Only a criminal response to, a motor factory going on is a rational response. If you behave in a law-abiding manner, then you don't truly believe that abortion is murder. Now, looking at rumors, when there are rumors in your immediate workplace or your apartment building, they tend to be accurate, because passing on inaccurate rumors will have very significant consequences for somebody in your immediate circle, right? We tend to have open vigilance for what happens to us in our immediate life. We don't tend to have open vigilance about esoteric, intellectual, exotic beliefs. So if someone passes on a false rumor in their workplace or at their co-op, right, they're going to have a huge reputational hit. So in domains of life that matter to us, we keep very careful track of who says what and whether what they say turns out to be correct or not. And this motivates people to exercise great caution when reporting rumors, because nobody wants to jeopardize their own credibility. And so our ability to track who says what enables us to create networks of reliable informants. Now, why do people believe false rumors on the basis of flimsy evidence? What does it mean to believe these rumors? Believing something, a rumor, or anything else, it's not an all or nothing matter. So defining belief depends on what you do with a given piece of information. A belief can remain essentially inert. All right, there's no inherent consequence that comes from believing that Jesus is God, all right, or that the Torah comes from God. So lots of beliefs can be completely insulated from any cognitive or behavioral consequences. Like not all beliefs, most beliefs don't lead to immediate action. So reflective beliefs, so beliefs such as, in esoteric theology, these beliefs have few personal consequences. And so you shouldn't expect people to use a lot of vigilance with regard to beliefs that have, few, if any, consequences. Why bother if the belief doesn't make much of a difference? So Chinese citizens, for example, they're not going to challenge the way insurance settlements are handled in the United States. Pakistani shopkeeper might say the Israelis orchestrated 9/11, but what's he going to do about it? American truthers who believe that 9/11 was an inside job, they don't actually live, enact, and behave as if they really believe their conspiracy theory. So one of the great ironies of the 9/11 truther movement is that its activists typically hold their meetings in large, unsecured locations, such as college auditoriums, even as they insist that government agents will stop at nothing to protect their conspiracy for world domination from discovery. Well, if you really believe that, why would you hold your meetings in large, unsecured locations, such as college auditoriums? Or take the rumor d'Orleans in France. It accused Jewish shopkeepers of kidnapping young Gentile women. Many of the town's inhabitants spread the rumor, although for the vast majority of them, the rumor had little or no behavioral consequences. Like some young girls started visiting other retailers or asking friends to accompany them while they shopped in the suspect stores. At the height of the rumor, some people in the busy street stopped and stared at the shops. Now, glaring at the shop, that's hardly an appropriate way to react after accusations of submitting young women to a lifetime of sexual exploitation. So these behaviors, or more precisely the lack thereof, showed that most of those who spread the rumor didn't actually believe it. Now, the rumor circulating in the wake of Pearl Harbor against Americans of Japanese ancestry did have significant effects, as the U.S. government decided to detain most of these citizens in internment camps. Now, there are important drivers behind the internment camps, much more than Nazi rumors about treason. All right, so one, quite a few Japanese did cooperate and support their home nation of Japan, and some passed on information spied for Japan. More of an effect was that many Japanese Americans were very successful farmers, and they had more successful farms than their white neighbors. So this led to resentment from white West Coast farmers, and that provided popularity and social support for the mass incarceration of Japanese Americans. You wouldn't have to compete against them. In Pakistan, conspiracy theories about the dreaded ISI, the intelligence service, are common, but Pakistanis don't organize conferences on how evil and powerful the ISI is, precisely because they truly believe that the ISI is evil and powerful. They don't say so publicly. Now imagine that your female friend runs out of a shop in tears crying that she's been the victim of a kidnapping attempt. Would you be content with simply glaring at the vendor, then telling other people later to avoid the shop? Or are you going to call the police immediately? That most people don't take false rumors or conspiracy theories such as, QAnon to their logical conclusion is driven home by the evidence that very few people actually act on it. Almost nobody went to Comet Ping Pong and try to do anything about what was going on. Edgar Madison Welch was one of those rare people who actually believed the rumors that the basement of Comet Ping Pong was used by Hillary Clinton cronies to engage in child sex trafficking. So, given this belief, coupled with his mistrust of the police, Welch's storming of the restaurant, guns ablaze, requesting the owners to free the children, that kind of made sense. But most people who endorse QAnon, they're happy to do nothing about it. At worst, they send insulting messages online. Right? You can't imagine a child sex trafficker is going to come to see the error of his ways as a result of, reading some posts on Facebook. Right, I want to talk about voter fraud. So I found out something that has caused me to revise my perspective on voter fraud. So voter fraud is one of those things like building a nuclear weapon that takes expertise. I don't think you can just intuit what's going on with voter fraud. And I didn't realize this. We have very little academic literature on voter fraud, on election fraud in general, and on election administration. So this is Lorraine Minity in her 2010 classic work, The Myth of Voter Fraud. So if you're interested in the topic of voter fraud, you need to read this book. And she spent years and years and years on this book because there's virtually no scholarly literature on voter fraud. I didn't realize this. Okay, so the complete dearth of academic investigations of electoral fraud and electoral administration integrity means the question of voter fraud will remain open for a time to come. What work has been done provides very little guidance for how we should evaluate it today. So I don't know if there's been an explosion in academic studies of voter fraud in the past 11 years, but I don't believe so. Lorraine Minity, academic, says, when I began my inquiry into the question of election fraud in 2001, there had been no new empirical research published on the subject for almost 2 decades. Wow. So there's been very little academic research into voter fraud for 3 decades now, because this book, The Myth of Voter Fraud, came out in 2010. For the vast majority of Americans committing an act of voter fraud, such as forging a voter registration card, stealing an identity to vote more than once, or knowingly voting illegally, is far more irrational than the individual act of voting. Like, why would an individual voter on their own commit an electoral crime when they face a felony conviction and 5 years in jail? And this also holds true for undocumented immigrants, right? Why would they want to put their well-being at risk when their one vote is not going to make much of a difference? So why is the specter of voter fraud recurrently conjured in U.S. electoral politics? Because it's not the voter fraud itself, it's the rhetoric about it and legislation making voting a little more challenging, a little more difficult, reduces voter turnout, and the conventional wisdom is lower voter turnout is better for Republicans, higher voter turnout is better for Democrats. Republicans are thought to be more committed voters than Democrats. So if we didn't have the massive explosion of mail-in voting in 2020, Donald Trump would likely have won re-election. Voter fraud, incredibly complicated, complex topic because the United States has a fragmented, inefficient, inequitable, complicated, overly complex electoral process run on election day essentially by an army of volunteers. And I'm reading from Lorraine Minity, her book, The Myth of Voter Fraud. So this system is practically designed to produce irregularities in administration. Numbers of voters signing the poll book do not exactly match the number of ballots cast because of the unexpected crush of citizens who want to vote and that the poll workers' bathroom break was not covered. So I once used to write down the quarter-mile lap time for a guy who was running a 50-mile race, and he was running it around a track, a quarter-mile track. And so every time he did the lap, I would have to write down the time. I needed to take a bathroom break, and so I recruited someone else to fill it out, but they didn't fill it out right. So in the confusion, it was so simple, but they didn't do it right. So my friend had to, run an extra lap just to keep us on the safe side. So sometimes we've got confused voters who aren't sure that their mail-in ballot, was done right, so they show up in person to vote. We've got, a long list of mix-ups, misunderstandings, mistakes. So the multitude of alternative explanations for these irregularities, generally ignored by the media, it's a much sexier story to say voter fraud rather than incompetence or just mistakes, administrative errors on behalf of the volunteers who look after our voting system. So stories of voter fraud grabs attention. It's no crime to lie about voter fraud. It is a massive crime to be convicted of voter fraud. It's no crime to exaggerate voter fraud. It's no crime to retell stories about voter fraud for which there's no factual foundation. So just look at the incentives. The press, the news media, they love scandal. They love stories of corruption. They love stories of fighting. So voter fraud is a very sexy topic for the news media to cover. But contrast the incentives to the individual voter to commit voter fraud to those which appear to motivate baseless voter fraud allegations on the part of a political opponent. Who stands to gain the most? Committing voter fraud is a crime. Falsely accusing someone of committing voter fraud is not a crime. And how do we even define voter fraud? Best definition of voter fraud is a legal one, that it is a crime. It's not that mere emotion of the mind that sees fraud lurking behind an unusually high number of absentee ballots or a bus parked near a polling place with out-of-state license plates. There must be a fraudulent transaction. But what kind of crime is fraud? Defining voter fraud as a crime runs into difficulties. The first is that as a crime, voter fraud is not precisely defined in law. Okay, there's no vote fraud law. There are an abundance of laws at the federal, state, local levels that criminalize behavior that we call voter fraud, but there is no single accepted legal definition of voter fraud because we have 50 state electoral systems and 50 state criminal codes governing the administration of elections. Plus, we have a federal code that applies in national elections. There is no uniform standard. And this legal incoherence contributes to popular misunderstandings of voter fraud. Yeah, never ascribe to malice what can be better explained by incompetence. Advertising is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It wouldn't be that big if propaganda didn't influence people. Okay, that's a great challenge. Why do people spend so much money on advertising? I want to address that in a future stream. ISIS propaganda might have played on pre-existing grievances. Yeah, the propagandists sent hundreds of thousands to fight for the caliphate, but it didn't change people's minds. If Christians really believe that abortion is murder, then why haven't they called for the imprisonment or death penalty for women and abortion doctors? Exactly. Yes, it seems common sense that we should require an ID if you want to vote. So, what the heck is going on here with Tucker Carlson?
Welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We take a lot of digs at the media on this show, and we do it for two reasons. It's fun, and they deserve it. Recently, we've watched with growing amusement as our media gatekeepers thrash around in a frenzy of foaming hysteria over the possibility that someone somewhere might dare to present facts or form opinions without their express written permission. Freelance thinking is what they hate most. It's a threat to their monopoly. They can't say that out loud, so instead they call it disinformation. Disinformation is the real threat, says the guy who thinks his union has the contract on bringing you the news. It's ridiculous. But before you judge these people, take a moment and feel some compassion. Consider how they might be feeling right about now. Imagine if you had spent 30 years making a good living as a car mechanic, and all of a sudden GM invents an engine that anyone can fix at home with a screwdriver. You'd be upset. That's how CNN feels about the internet. It's exposing their scam. Naturally, they're a little irrational about it.
Millions of Americans clinging to conspiracy theories. This is all evidence of radicalization. And that's not easy to say. It's not an easy word to use. But it's way past time to talk about this honestly. No one should tiptoe past this predicament. Disinformation networks like QAnon are causing people to lose touch with reality.
Disinformation networks? That doesn't sound like a misleading social media post. It sounds like a terror cell. And it sounds that way on purpose. The thing about disinformation they're telling us is that it's not simply harmful to you personally. It's not like eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's or sneaking a smoke while the kids are at school. No, disinformation isn't a sin, it's a crime. Disinformation hurts everyone. It's an offense against this country. Disinformation is an attack on America, and not just on America, but more critically, on something called our norms.
Our norms are so out of whack that it has become surprising when good things happen.
Even after 4 years of us talking, night after night about the norms that are being shattered.
He is doing everything to shred every one of these norms.
We can't allow these kind of democratic norms to be shattered.
So we abided by these norms, but this president is just in this administration just blown right through those norms.
Not since the Red Scare have once good men and women been dragged into this kind of sabotage of our democracy and social norms.
Our norms. Shattered, shredded, crushed, destroyed, blown through. Why is it always our norms that are the first to be attacked? Maybe because our norms are democracy's first responders. They run to the sound of gunfire. Norms are like the young lieutenants in Vietnam walking point through the rice paddies, exposing themselves to fire in order to save the platoon. It's a dangerous job being a norm, and never more so than now. You thought underwater welding was a treacherous gig? You feared for the guys who fix antennas on skyscrapers? That's nothing. Imagine being a norm in today's America. They don't last long. Okay, we'll stop. It's all pretty amusing and it's hard to resist. Our norms, our norms! On the other hand, if we're being completely honest here, and we strive to be completely honest, we have to admit there is a kernel of truth in what they're yelling about. There is disinformation out there, and it does hurt people. It makes people stupid, for one thing, but it also impairs their ability to make wise decisions. You can't know what to do next if you don't know what's really going on. A lot of people in this country are in that position right now. We saw evidence of it just this week. We read a research paper called How Informed Are Americans About Race and Policing? It was published by the Skeptic Research Center. Check it out online if you have a minute. It's a pretty amazing document. The researchers asked people to estimate the number of unarmed African Americans who were killed by the police in 2019. Here are the results. 44% of Americans who describe themselves as liberal believe the total number of killed was, quote, 1,000 or more. More than 1,000 unarmed African Americans gunned down by cops. Is that true? Well, as it happened, we have definitive statistics on this. They're publicly available. You can find them in about a minute. The actual number of unarmed African Americans killed by the police in 2019 was 27. So more than 1,000 versus the reality of 27. Quite a spread. And it was not an anomaly. The rest of the study found similar results. Self-described liberals, for example, believe that a strong majority of people killed by police in 2019 were African Americans. The actual percentage was less than half that, closer to 25%. These are not small mistakes. A lot of Americans are completely and utterly misinformed, and that has actual consequences. Public policy can change dramatically on the basis of things people think they know but don't actually know, and we have seen that a lot. Entire police departments got defunded. So it's worth finding out where the public is getting all this false information, this disinformation, as we'll call it. So we checked. We spent all day trying to locate the famous QAnon, which in the end we learned is not even a website. If it's out there, we could not find it. Then we checked Marjorie Taylor Greene's Twitter feed because we have heard she traffics in disinformation, CNN told us, but nothing there. Next, we called our many friends in the tight-knit intel community. Could Vladimir Putin be putting this stuff out there? The Proud Boys? Alex Jones? Who is lying to America in ways that are certain to make us hate each other and certain to destroy our core institutions? Well, none of the above, actually. It wasn't Marjorie Taylor Greene. It was cable news. It was politicians talking on TV. They're the ones spreading disinformation to Americans. Maybe they're from QAnon. You be the judge.
We have a long and wretched and disturbing history in this country of black people being murdered by law enforcement.
Training for police officers on implicit racial bias and procedural justice, because to deny it exists is to deny folks liberty and in many cases life.
How can we continue to lose the lives of unarmed black men in the United States of America at the hands of white police officers?
I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box, because...
Okay, come back to Tucker Carlson in a minute. Want to talk a little bit more about propaganda. So chapter 9 of this great Hugo Mercier book, Propagandists, Campaigners, and Advertisers. So why do we have so much advertising? Why do people spend billions on advertising if it doesn't change any minds? So when he was in jail working on Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler thought a lot about propaganda. Hitler described the masses as credulous, a crowd of human children, feminine in its character. Children and women have long been associated with emotionality and gullibility. Effective propaganda must rest on stereotype formulas, persistently repeated until the very last individual has come to grasp the idea that has been put forward. Once Hitler was elected, mostly on an economic anti-communist platform, once Hitler had consolidated power, Hitler, with the help of Joseph Goebbels and the propaganda ministry, turned his theory into practice. Together, they would develop the most ignominious mass persuasion attempt in history. In particular, it aimed to build up German anti-Jewish attitudes, vilifying Jews in movies, in radio, in books, posters, educational materials, and so forth. Right? They cranked up the propaganda. How effective was this propaganda barrage? And not very effective at all. So Nazi propaganda, even if it was responsible for, let's say, a small share of anti-Jewish attitudes, perhaps it contributed to the problem. But did it do so through brute repetition? No. If mere repetition was effective, areas with greater exposure to the propaganda would see the sharpest rise in anti-Jewish attitudes, but the sheer exposure to propaganda had no effect at all. So Ian Kershaw, the historian, argues that other dimensions of Nazi propaganda were even less effective than the attempts to turn all Germans into rabid anti-Semites. The push to enforce compulsory euthanasia of the handicapped was widely resisted. Attacks on communism appealed to those already on the right, but were an almost unmitigated failure among German industrial workers, communism's natural constituency. Nazi propaganda failed to persuade the majority of German workers to contribute willingly to the war effort, many electing to resist through absenteeism. Soon as the war took a turn for the worst after Stalingrad, messages from the propaganda ministry fell on deaf ears. Goebbels' unvarying message of victory became monotonic and was ignored by the public. Germans, generally speaking, trusted the BBC over official government programs. Nazi propaganda failed to generate much liking for the Nazi Party, whose local officials were viewed as incompetent, corrupt, and they were universally despised. The National Socialists, in an internal memo, noted how propaganda encounters rejection everywhere among the population because it is regarded as wrong and lying. Well, what about the German armies that fought to the death? Those battles that they were certain to lose, aren't they the ultimate proof of the effectiveness of Nazi propaganda? Well, studies of German soldiers consistently show that political values played a very minor part in sustaining their motivation for combat. As for soldiers everywhere, the main impetus came from the support of the small group that they were embedded in. So the German army, they raised soldiers and kept them together in the same, geographic area, right? That the same geographic area that they came from, they stayed that geographic group. So unlike America, which just mixes their soldiers willy-nilly, German army units came from specific geographic areas where people were more likely to know each other, more likely to have loyalty to each other, right? So as people that they grew up with, those are the people they served with, people they fought alongside for many years, with whom they'd shared many hardships. These bonds, right? These bonds were incredibly tight. Also, fear played a role, fear of being executed if a desertion attempt failed, fear of dying as a POW in the wrong hands. So very few German POWs on the Eastern Front ever came back. So the effectiveness of Nazi propaganda was heavily dependent on its ability to build on existing consensus, on its ability to confirm existing values, to bolster existing prejudice. Whenever Nazi propaganda ran against public opinion, it failed abysmally. Little or no mass persuasion took place. And we see the same results in the Soviet Union and in communist China. Nearly 40 years of Francoist propaganda did not turn the Spanish against democracy. Constant exposure to the court of Ceausescu did not turn Romanians into his supporters. Unrelenting propaganda turned many East Germans into habitual cynics who did not believe anything the regime said. By and large, government propaganda fails to convince the public. It can even backfire, leading to widespread distrust of the regime. At most, propaganda surfs on pre-existing opinions, and it frees people to express what might otherwise be seen as socially objectionable views.
Someone may shoot you.
So not only are huge numbers of unarmed African Americans murdered every year because of their race, to deny that or question that fact is to effectively participate in those killings yourself. Denying this is denying them life, as Kamala Harris put it, or as CNN said, it's mass murder.
No, I'm not telling people to go out there and riot. But tell me what the proportional response to mass murder over the years is. What is the proportional response to that?
I'm not telling people to go out and riot, but what is the proportional response to mass murder? Good question, CNN. Burning Wendy's, obviously. But where, you ask, and this is the missing piece of the puzzle, are all the victims of this indiscriminate racial violence? Well, in January, MSNBC was pretty sure they had found one. The channel claimed cops had tried to execute an unarmed African-American man called Jacob Blake in Wisconsin. And they repeated that claim that Jacob Blake was unarmed again and again and again.
No charges will be brought against the police officer or any of the police officers involved in the shooting of Jacob Blake. He was an unarmed black man who was shot.
Viewers may recall an officer shot Blake in the back 7 times while he was unarmed.
Another example of African Americans not receiving equal protection of law. Mr. Blake was unarmed at the time that he was shot.
So it's sad that Jacob Blake got shot. Sincerely, it's always sad when people get shot, whether you agree with them or not, period. But why Jacob Blake was shot is kind of the whole point of the story, isn't it? Mr. Blake was unarmed at the time he was shot. That's what they told us again and again. And yet someone in MSNBC's news division forgot to check with Jacob Blake about that, because a week later, Jacob Blake himself admitted on camera that he was, in fact, armed.
I'm rattled. You know, I realized I had dropped my knife. I had a little pocket knife. So I picked it up after I got off of him because they tased me and I fell on top of him. I shouldn't have picked it up, only considering what was going on. At that time, I wasn't thinking clearly.
Oh, just to be totally clear, we feel sorry for Jacob Blake. He got hurt. It'll change his life forever. But it's not quite the neat little morality tale we thought it was, is it? And again, we're not telling you that. We're not correcting the lie because we're smug and self-satisfied and enjoy highlighting the other people's errors. We're just defending our norms here as any American would. Are we heroes for doing that? We can't say so. It just feels like the right thing to do. But it is a never-ending task. We can give you many examples. Here's one from the weekend. Hundreds of activists gathered in New York to stage a march against white nationalism. They said they were seeking justice for an 84-year-old man from Thailand who had been slashed with a box cutter on the subway. A lot of violence on the New York subway right now. Here's one example. Protesters stormed through Washington Square Park, chanting slogans like, "Whose streets? Our streets." One held a sign that read, "White nationalism is the virus." Well, maybe it is the virus, but it's hard to know exactly who's been infected with it. Police have now arrested a 19-year-old man called Antoine Watson for the crime. Let's just say it's hard to imagine that Antoine Watson is a white supremacist. So why are they suggesting otherwise? What is all of this about? Well, here's an interesting theory, and it comes to us from a researcher called Zach Goldberg, who does not work at CNN, by the way. Goldberg looked at every time the term racism was used in America's largest newspapers, and he noticed a trend. In fact, there was a noticeable spike just after 2011, which not coincidentally was right around the time of the Occupy Wall Street movement, when people were starting to talk about what Wall Street actually does in public. Suddenly, all at once, journalists agreed that the real problem in America is it's racism. America is not a place with a screwed-up economic system that rewards a tiny number of emotionally damaged grifters who possess otherwise useless skills applicable only to finance and Pai-Gow. A place where everyone else gets poorer, people with real jobs are making less, people in finance are making more. But that's not a problem. No, stop talking about it immediately, and that's in order. No. America is instead, we learned, a place where the rest of us must hate each other at all times because of our skin colors, which, by the way, cannot be changed. And that way, once we're all yelling and aggrieved and angry about irresolvable race questions, once we've picked the wound until it won't stop bleeding, we won't have the time to ask even the most basic questions about economics. Questions like, why are all these billionaire hedge fund guys paying half the tax rate I am? And who precisely is getting rich from the Federal Reserve? Where's all that money going? It'd be nice to know, but you don't see a ton of stories about those questions in the New York Times. They're too busy talking about race. It's a pretty sophisticated operation, this cover Wall Street op, if you think about it. Vladimir Putin could never pull it off. He'd buy a few dopey ads on Facebook and call it a day, home to his vodka and bears. No, it takes a sophisticated operator to lie this effectively, to take the central problem of American life, which is the agonizing death of our middle class, and cover it with a smokescreen of manufactured race hatred so that no one even realizes it's happening. You'd really need to be CNN would put it, a disinformation network to pull that off. And of course, the irony is, because everything is irony, is that CNN itself has become a disinformation network, more powerful than QAnon and far more destructive. You got to wonder if Jeff Zucker's ever going to get hauled up to Congress to ask for that. In the meantime, Jimmy Dore joins us, a man often accused of misinformation, host of the Jimmy Dore Show. He joins us tonight. Jimmy, I appreciate your coming on the show, knowing how attacked you are when you do. Why do you think we're hearing so much about misinformation? And I should say, you're on the left, I'm not. Both of us have been accused of it. What's this about?
Well, I would just want to say about I think two things can be true. I think your assessment of them not covering the real problem in America is true. I think we can also have a racist criminal justice system just because of the numbers. If you look at so we can have two problems at once. Now that, but
we don't talk about the other, though. I mean, honest, a sincere question. Why is it, for all the conversation we have about race, most of which you're not allowed to participate in, actually, no one wants a real conversation about it, but why don't we ever have a conversation about, like, what's happening to all this money the Federal Reserve is printing, and, like, why is it only going to a tiny percentage of the population? Why don't we? Well, seriously, why don't we have that debate?
Well, that's because, if you know, the Democratic Party are beholden just as much as any politician to the Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, big healthcare, pharma. Liberals believe a lot of things that aren't true. They believed Russiagate, which was an evidence-free conspiracy theory that they screamed at the top of their lungs for 4 years, still doing it, by the way. And why are we talking about stuff like that instead of the things you want us to talk about and the things I wanted to talk about, which is the economic devastation of America and workers? While we're talking about that, that's right. They don't want to talk about that because both parties are complicit in that, right? I mean, Biden told America that if we voted for Ossoff and Warnock, we're going to get $2,000 checks the next day. That's misinformation because we did didn't get it. They told us that we were going to get $2,000 checks, and now they say $1,400 is just the same as $2,000 checks. Those are not the same thing. Those are totally different things. That's a misinformation right there. And right now, when I can't, when I talk about COVID, I can only do what the Ministry of Information of Truth says is okay to report. So if I said what Andrew Cuomo said 2 weeks ago, that he does not trust the experts when it comes to COVID, I would have my YouTube channel taken down. But the governor who's going to get an Emmy for his COVID handling, by the way, turns out he was completely corrupt, gave immunity to people again because of money who were actually complicit in killing people in nursing homes. And then he covered up the numbers. That was complete misinformation. And this is the guy that the liberal press wants to exalt as some kind of anti-Trump. No, he turned out he was just the biggest misinformer as anybody, and he's